HD2 and W239BF Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. Welcome into the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia, where the voice of the Rochester fan is heard. Pull up a stool and join us at 866-4326. This is WGR Rochester, and the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia is on now.
2 hours of sports talk excellence. Thanks for joining us. You found us from the High Falls Studios in downtown Rochester, where outside, the sun is out. Inside, oh, it's a balmy 80 degrees here in our studios today with Tim Schneider. I'm Gene Battaglia. You can join us. Our phone number, 585-866-4326. You can write to us. Our handle at WGR Rochester. We're on the FM at 95.7, AM at 950. We are on YouTube. We are on Twitch. We are always streaming for free inside the Odyssey app. I will give credit to baseball for one thing, but this is not carrying over to the sports bar. That's this trend of tarps off. So when I heard tarps off, I'm like, what are we talking about? Like, are we talking about Tropicana Field where they cover up sections of the field, the tickets they get? So remember how they did that in Oakland and Jacksonville? Like, Jacksonville, such a great football town. Yeah, you were covering up seats to pretend like they didn't exist because you couldn't sell them. No, tarps off doesn't mean that. It means you look out there and there's just a bunch of shirtless dudes out there. And some of them are older dudes. And, hey, if you're an older dude and you put in the work, go right ahead. Tim, I do not need to see you without a shirt on. Not to say that you're not like me. I am admittedly a little overweight. You, sir, though, not. But I still don't need to see that. So as hot as it may get in here, and as no clarity, by the way, are we ever going to get AC back in this building?
It's just going to be super cold or super hot, and we have to deal with it. So wait till winter, and we'll be saying we wish we were doing this again.
You'll see, the thing is, people might be like, well, just open up a window. No, we're in a radio studio, so all the sound has to be kind of enclosed. So while there are windows, we can't open them. So literally, we're going to bake. And when we get to our first 90-degree day, I mean, how cranky are we going to be here when we're going to be in studio?
Hopefully it's fixed by then.
I'm not cautiously optimistic.
Chances are low.
No, chances are low. As we take a look at the show today, as a full show today, we got, so if you want to get in now, the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line at 866-4326. Award-winning barbecue. Oh, it's good. From Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub, 135 West Commercial Street, East Rochester, goodsmokebbq.com. I'm going to hit that up next week, I think. Once the lacrosse settles down just a little bit and not working 5 jobs, we'll be chowing down a Good Smoke. Coming up on the show today, bottom of this hour, and I swear to you, and he will back this up, I sent this guy a text yesterday morning, just thinking, that contract thing with Myles Garrett's a little weird. I think it'd be a good time to check in with Spencer German. And then didn't get back to me. We're on the air yesterday. Tim melts down on the air yesterday. And wow, Myles Garrett, they traded him just as soon as the calendar flipped to June 1st. And then I sent Spencer a text last night, and I said, Spencer, I had no idea that, that was coming. I just kind of dumb lucked at it. Oh, as you can imagine, I've been so busy today. Yeah, I'd be happy to come on. He's got 585 roots. He's from Rochester. Spencer German, host of Locked on Browns. He's also, you hear him on 92.3 The Fan Cleveland inside the Odyssey app. I've got a ton of questions because what I think the Browns GM did up there today, just a lot of BS. Even like, oh, we didn't know, and then we were presented this opportunity. Then why did you agree to redo the contract? What was that all about? Like the second, I've got my theories on this, and I want them run by Spencer. Spencer German, Locked on Browns. He's coming up bottom of this hour. Next hour. Now, Tim, if I went through the exercise, and this is how I'm going to determine at some point, do I am I talking to enough people? We all say that diversity is important. I think diversity is important in sports, right? I'm not talking about, race, religion, that too, but I'm talking about you should know fans of other teams, right?
Oh, yeah.
I know one San Antonio Spur fan, and he is a semi-regular guest on the show. And I'm figuring this is a great day to have RJ Ochoa back on with us. He's based there, so yes, he's a big Spurs fan. Blocking the boys, one of the leading voices when it comes to Cowboys on the internet. And I'd be also curious to get his thoughts on the Myles Garrett trade because, well, all right, what Parsons getting dealt for 2 first? We can debate that. Who got the better end of the deal? Was it the Browns or the Cowboys? Should the Cowboys have been in on Myles Garrett? I'm going to explain why I don't think that was ever going to be the case. RJ Ochoa. I was going to say Myles Garrett. No, Myles Garrett is not joining the show. RJ Ochoa is joining the show coming up, bottom of hour number 2. Hit us up at WGR Rochester, and thank you for joining us, making part of your day. Next week, Red Wing ticket giveaways. So yours truly, throwing out the first pitch. No humble brag here, Tim.
Really looking forward to it, honestly.
Yeah, June 19th. We got to get an update. With Skubal, could we see Tarek Skubal in Rochester next? Well, is it next? No, 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, 2 Fridays.
It's 2 Fridays now. Yeah, the 19th.
Technically 3, I guess.
Yeah, I guess 3. It might be pushing it. Wings
we'll get an update on Skubal probably at the end of this week. So.
Yeah, so they haven't determined. And who knows? Maybe they'll just say, no rehab start. You're back in there. And I honestly, sidebar, the trade to trade them. They're down and out. You're heading into an off season where nobody's going to be paying anybody. Get when you can, and then you're building for a little while out. So we could talk anything you would like. Let's start here, and that's with the trade, because talking to Bills fans, reading some of the things online, and I understand, like, if you were one that sees this or you saw the Max Crosby trade, well, that didn't happen, but for the purpose of this, yeah, like Baltimore was in on that at one point. Or if you saw the Mike Parsons trade, wow, you just keep feeling like you're left. You could even throw Trey Hendrickson in there. That's fair. Trey Hendrickson's a great pass rusher. Baltimore chose to go the path. And here the Bills are still searching for that dude. The closest thing they had to a dude, I would agree on this, is 10 games of Von Miller. That was a lot of fun, right? Wow, that's what a premier pass rusher looks like, and then he gets hurt. And it hasn't been quite the same. Yes, I know he had a good year down in Washington. I was going to say this for later, but you know, yesterday, Tim, as soon as this news broke, I'm like, what if they get Aaron Donald? What if the Rams picked up the phone and said Aaron Donald? And then wouldn't you know, Trey Wingo puts this out. Let's just say it's more than just imagination. That's all I can tell you right now. And Aaron Donald, you look at his Insta feed, like for a guy who's retired, is working out an awful lot. And how old is Aaron Donald? He's 35. Like, why not? Now, I'm only bringing this up now because can you imagine your Rams GM listening? Hey, Mr. Snead, yeah, we got Von Miller's representation on the line. What is this, the 5th call in the past week? Like, Von would love any job right now. I think that would be great for the NFL, and I think it would be horrible for everybody else, including the Buffalo Bills, if you got Myles Garrett and Aaron Donald and a bunch of young talent on that side of the football. It's like, all right, just pencil them in for the Super Bowl at this point. Back to Myles Garrett. If you're a Bills fan that is upset that why wasn't my team in on this, I think there are 2 primary reasons. And I'm going to start with the lesser. And the lesser is pretty obvious too, right? Okay, see what the Browns offered for Myles Garrett. And Tim and I feel like this shouldn't be like the contrarian pick here. I think the Rams won the trade. Who's the better player? You gave up 3 draft picks. Who knows if they'll be any good? And Jared Verse, who, let's be honest, if you really want him back in 2 years, you can buy him back. All right? So, to me, it's clear. Like, more often than not, who's the best player in the trade? Okay, that team won the deal. And we're not talking about a Pro Bowler and All-Pro. We're talking generational talent who, what will this look like when he's playing for a team that actually puts up points on the other side? And then when the team puts up points on the other side, guess what they have to do? They have to, your opponent has to throw the football. And it will be great to see Myles Garrett with his skill set, with a team and a franchise that'll have, some national play. That's the reason number one. Like, you could have put all the draft picks in the world for the Buffalo Bills, but there's nobody on the Bills side of the ball that could fit the square peg there of great young talent. You're not paying him. Enjoy this for 2 years. Who would that be? Because you could say, oh, Christian Bedford, you're paying him. Yeah, you're paying Terrell Bernard. Like, who is the young talent on that side of the ball where you would say, ooh, yes, that's the guy I think we should be. Deion Walker, we're hopeful. I really like what I saw. No, there isn't anybody. And I guess this lends itself, and we could just table this for now, to a larger conversation with the Buffalo Bills. And that's about roster construction. That some guys that might be B-plus players, you're paying A-plus dollars. And in the draft, you haven't hit on that A-plus pass rusher yet. Now, maybe with Jim Leonard, and we'll talk to Matt Perino tomorrow, by the way, because the Bills OTA is going on today, so Matt Perino will join us tomorrow. Matt Perino's got a piece up about Ed Oliver. And in this new system, okay, if you have Ed Oliver going against a guard, one guard, okay, maybe this unlocks Ed Oliver. But for now, you're paying Ed Oliver. The trade does not match up in that regard.
What about Greg Rousseau?
No, you're paying Greg Rousseau. What my point is, Tim, like the attractiveness for Verse is twofold. One, young talent still on his first deal.
Yeah.
All right, so Rousseau, you already paid him, and I think Rousseau is a fine player. I'm not, and it's great that he's coming into town. He joined us last week. Is he the same sort of player that Jared Verse is? We can debate that, but I'm talking like value. The value of Jared Verse right now is better than the value of Greg Rousseau. So that's number one. Number two, and we can't overlook this. Myles Garrett had a no-trade clause. And I know we all want to think, don't you want to win a Super Bowl championship? You could be beloved in Buffalo. You could do this. Maybe, and I don't know this, but maybe the dude wants just a change of pace. You're young. You're a professional. You want to go live in another Rust Belt city? Well, great. Here's one that's just 3 hours up the road. Congrats. No, hey, the weather is great here now, but you want to be freezing your toots off in December and January in Buffalo? That's a factor. You could say, well, Gene, you don't bring up the taxes because you went to California. Okay, that's fair. But this is another thing that Browns fans have kind of honed in on. And there's nothing wrong with this, by the way. Absolutely nothing. Chloe Kim, the snowboarder, she's been dating for over a year, and Tim's nodding his head. She's based in Los Angeles. So, not wife, but if you want a happy life where you don't have to be living two coasts, and if you could kind of avoid it, this could have been something that has been in the works for a while. And it will probably make his life simpler and her life simpler. If you're seeing somebody, I would think it'd be easier to, work in the same city that person might be working in, rather than, okay, I'll catch up with you in a couple months, or we could talk on Zoom like later. No, FaceTime, none of that. No, so that's also part of this too. Making this faulty assumption that, yeah, he would definitely come to Buffalo. I don't know that. Was Brandon Beane in on this? I'm sure if he was, we'll hear it on McAfee or some point. Beane will tell everybody. But it underscores for Buffalo a couple things. One, you have tried and tried and tried. And yes, there are some good pieces on that defensive line There isn't that game wrecker. There's just not. And it's so hard to find that sort of guy. And the value of listen to what I'm saying. The value of Verse right now is better than the value of anybody on that Bills defensive line right now. Yes, that's true. Now, Cleveland will have to make this decision in 2 years, and maybe they ship him off to somewhere else. And I'm not because of that. I'm not saying Cleveland won the trade. I'm going to say they did the best they could, because I don't think you're just kind of waking up and saying, let's ship off Myles Garrett to Los Angeles. We're done with this guy. He was fantastic last year. So I do think there's a lot to talk about with Spencer German on this. Like, see if we're on the same wavelength. We'll see what we can kind of learn. He hosts the Locked On Browns, 92.3 The Fan in Cleveland, as Myles Garrett dealt, it was, I think, around this time yesterday.
Right around now, yeah.
Yeah, and thank, for everybody that wrote in, because really, we didn't know what to do with our breaking. We're not going to play the breaking news sounder, not to confuse you, but what do we do with we have breaking news? Do we keep John Sterling, who's no longer with us? And, thank you to Jack and Bruce and everybody else that said, no, go ahead. You can keep it. And until somebody gives me a reason, like if the Sterling family wrote in and said, don't do this anymore, obviously we'd drop it in a hot minute. But for now, that will be our breaking news sounder. Tribute to 1.0, as we call it in the sports bar. We just kind of continue on here. 1 to 3 weekdays here in Rochester. 585-866-4326. I don't believe half the stuff I see in terms of photos now on the internet, and maybe you were deked out by this because, okay, finally we had the A.J. Brown trade yesterday, right? And A.J. Brown, I guess it makes sense because the Patriots are looking for a number one. They need a receiver. A.J. Brown played for Mike Vrabel and the Eagles. I think that ran its course in Philadelphia. Okay, A.J. Brown reading a self-help book. A.J. Brown, the cryptic comments. Like, we just kind of glaze over the fact that A.J. Brown talked his way out of Tennessee really for nothing. In Philadelphia, hey, this is when you trade for a wide receiver like that. When it's great, it's great. And when it's not, you move on quick. I don't think the Eagles necessarily moved on quick here, but they did what they needed to do. They get a first-round pick next year. So A.J. Brown, he's excited about this. And how heartwarming was this to know that he is actually going to the team that he grew up as a fan for. There he is, like in his Instagram, wearing Tom Brady jerseys as a kid. Like, oh, that's kind of cool. Oh, you got to be kidding me. I fell for this too? Like, everybody's zeroing in on the details. And this is like, I don't have time in my life if you're presenting something to me and I have to play detective, or I have to be just a lawyer to say, is this photo real? I present to you the jury. And there's one thing on one of the jerseys that made it like, nope, this is totally AI. Because there is a kid, I'm going to say he's 5 or 6, and he's big smile, and it's A.J. Brown as a 5 or 6-year-old wearing a Tom Brady jersey. And on the side, the sleeve, there's the Nike symbol. I don't keep up on this as much. Nike didn't become the official supplier again to NFL for the jerseys until the year 2015, which in 2015, by that point, A.J. Brown would have been a teenager. So, come on. And this is A.J. putting this out. Come on. And then he put out another photo, and this is kind of the thing where, okay, maybe I missed that. Later on, Instagram flagged it for AI. I didn't know they do that too. Like, no, these photos might not be real. You get the community note on it. So now that you're a patriot, A.J. Brown, we don't like you. So, like, yeah, try again. Yeah, who did you really grow up for? Did you really grow up a Bills fan? Come on. Who was your team growing up, AJ? Because it certainly wasn't a Patriot fan. You made those photos up. You did.
It's kind of an awesome troll job just knowing that, like, and it stinks because it looks legit until you, like, really dive in, and anybody can fool anybody now. And I think it's a funny troll.
Well, we're getting to the point, Tim, where, like, a lot of these photos, and a lot of my algorithm shows me because, yes, I love baseball, and I like old-timey baseball, like the Brooklyn Dodgers and the New York Giants and that sort of stuff. And this photo comes across of Six Stadium. What's that? The Seattle Pilots 1 year, and they played in a terrible stadium, and as the story goes, they were still constructing the stadium the night before. That is a true story. And there I see the photo of them constructing the stadium. I'm like, oh, well, that's kind of cool. I've never seen this photo. You know why I've never seen this photo? Because it's not a real photo. Like, I look at it, I'm like, oh, really? They had people back in the 1960s had bright international orange jerseys, like the vests like they would for construction. I'm like, come on. Like that, the whole, people are going to be turned off to so, not that they already are, but like, okay, what am I seeing? This isn't real. I like to live in the real world. I can tell you, like, for now, it's Tim and I. Someday we'll get to an AI Tim and an AI Gene or something like that. But for now, we're right here. Before we get to Spencer German, one Bills note is OTAs continuing out there. Today is the day that it's Pete Carmichael, the Bills offensive coordinator, where really this is Joe Brady's offense, but Joe Brady has trust in Pete Carmichael going back to their days with the New Orleans Saints. And this is the day he'll get up there and say how much he loves this, how much he loves that, how much, it's the season of sunshine. Everything is awesome with the Buffalo Bills. For Pete Carmichael, he says he still hasn't figured it out if he'll be up in the booth or on the field. Now, again, as far as I know, he's not calling plays. I'm sorry, like, I don't understand this debate. Like, if you are a coordinator, you have position coaches that work underneath you that if you need to tell a player, hey, adjust this or play, you don't need to do the face-to-face coaching. You need to see everything from the 50,000-foot view. I don't know why, like, people give this a pass. If you're a coordinator, get your ass up in the box. Be up there. You can see things better. Have you ever been on the football? Hard to get the depth perception. So, again, that's probably the correct answer for him to say I haven't figured this out yet. But eventually, if I'm a head coach, I want my coordinators upstairs. We'll talk to Spencer German next. Gene Battaglia, WGR Rochester.
95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester.
Brought to you by USPS Ground Advantage.
Pump up the volume.
Business moves fast.
Pump up the volume.
When you ship with USPS Ground Advantage, you can keep up with confidence. Visit USPS.com/Ground Advantage to learn more.
WGR Rochester Sports Update.
Stanley Cup Final begins tonight. Vegas is at Carolina. Former Sabre Jack Eichel, now the Golden Knights, talking about having experience.
I think every year is different, and this experience is different in a lot of ways than it was in 23, and things change year to year. And I think you can draw from your experience a little bit, just knowing what to expect, right? Having had done it before, knowing what this is going to look like, and the things that come with playing in the finals.
Babil's OTA is continuing today. We'll talk some Cleveland Browns and the Myles Garrett trade. Rochester native Spencer German joining us next here in the Sports Bar. Rochester Red Wings begin a 6-game series tonight at Lehigh Valley. All the action in the majors under the lights. The Yankees opening a series at home against Cleveland. The Mets are out in Seattle. The NBA Finals begin tomorrow night. Game 1, Knicks at San Antonio. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, WGR Rochester.
Rochester's home for live sports and the best sports talk anywhere. The Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR, Rochester.
I can only imagine what the day was like for our next guest yesterday. Spencer German, Locked On Browns, 92.3 The Fan in Cleveland. Always good with his time, and as we mentioned in the update, proudly from the area code 585. And Spencer, you are my witness. I texted you around 11 o'clock yesterday morning thinking, all right, it'd be just kind of cool to learn a little bit more, like why did Myles Garrett, why is there this contract that would allow for something like this? Little did I know that this would actually happen right on June 1st. Spencer, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Yeah, it's been a crazy day. I think our text exchange actually sums up how the day went pretty well, because you texted me around 11, and I read your text, and I was like, all right, I'll text him back here. We were out at the Browns have an annual Browns Foundation golf outing. It's a big charity event they do, and so we were out there. And I was thinking all right, yeah, I'll be heading out in early afternoon, and I'll text Gene back and let him know that should work. And then little did I know that you'd be texting me later that night saying hey, just checking back in. And I was like, my bad, dude. So I kind of got caught up in all of it. But, yeah, happy to be on, man. And certainly a lot to react to after everything that went down yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, when you look back in the contract, what have you been able I'm not buying Andrew Berry's, the GM of the Browns, his explanation, what he said today, well, this opportunity was presented. Okay, sure, whatever. Not going to, go say liar, liar, pants on fire. But I guess let's go back to when people learned that, wait a second, these bonuses have been deferred. When you look at it from that point, Spencer, how were you able to timeline, when this actually became a real thing? The idea, was it Myles Garrett going to management? Was it management saying, if we could kind of do this? Explain, to your knowledge or even speculation here, how this all came about.
Yeah, I think it did start with what you mentioned, the changes in late March to Myles' contract that pushed some of these bonuses that were due the next couple of years. They would have been due late March and actually made them due just a couple of days before the season begins each year for the next, I think, 3 years it was. And that kind of raised some red flags for people, because there was really no immediate financial benefit to the Browns doing that. It didn't create any additional cap space in the short term. It just became kind of like this maneuver that basically opened a window where, hey, you could trade Myles and have to owe him less money in dead cap, because you then don't have to pay this bonus money that was once due to him. And so the questions kind of started there. Even today, I don't think Andrew Berry really gave a very good explanation for why they did that. He continues to say that it wasn't a precursor to them trading Myles Garrett. And he said something today about the real reason of why we made those moves would be really boring to you. But I'm actually genuinely curious why they did it if it wasn't for that reason, because it felt like even if they did it with the intent of we don't necessarily think we're going to trade Myles, the fact that it was like for the next 3 years that they moved that bonus money made it feel like they were at least kind of setting the stage for, well, if something happens and we decide it's time to move Miles, we kind of have this lever in the contract to be able to get out from under it and owe a little bit less money. So that's what I'm sort of tending to believe in what sort of sparked that and why it happened. But as soon as we all saw that, it raised a red flag. And then I think the fact that he wasn't really around, hadn't interfaced with the new coaching staff. He was in Cleveland at one point. He came into town for a Cavs game, and then we saw Todd Monken the next day and asked him, like, have you seen Miles? And he was like, nope, still just, through text. And I do think the communication, as Andrew Berry said, was probably maybe blown out of proportion. Like, they made it clear he wasn't, like, ghosting the franchise, and then this trade kind of came about. I do believe Berry when he says that, they weren't going to trade him if it wasn't the right price, and that the Rams adding Verse into the equation seemed to sort of tip the scales in their favor towards now this is a move that we want to make. But as far as like being open to it, I don't know that it was just as clear as like, well, it was no until that. I think the fact that they moved this money around at least made it so there was a possibility that they could keep that door open and at least consider it at some point. And it just so happened that it played out this offseason shortly after the draft, obviously.
Spencer, I'm going to present two theories to you, and you tell me, all right, could you buy into this or no, that's not it. And here's my first kind of, all right, how did this all come about? I'm going to back this up here. I'm going to go to the Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl. I remember the timeline. It's Super Bowl week. We remember this here from our perspective because, hey, the Bills have Josh Allen. There he is down in New Orleans. We're all kind of celebrating. The story that week was, hey, it's Myles Garrett. I want to trade. Like, whoa. And we're all I remember you came on our show and everything. And then after a little while, here's your contract. But then how do we get from here's your contract to, okay, you're dealt? Could there have been kind of in these negotiations a gentleman's agreement, meaning, okay, here's the contract. We're all going to play nice. I'm going to agree to this contract, but if I don't see the things I'd like to see here in Cleveland, you will make a good faith effort to move me next offseason. In other words, yes, this was signed, but there was some sort of verbal, we're going to try this for a year and see if it works.
I mean, there could have been. I don't know that I think that's exactly what went on here, that there was like some, backdoor agreement there. When the Browns, especially because last year the Browns were so adamant that, like, we want Myles to be a career Brown. I when they said those things, I think they were being truthful. I don't think they necessarily thought it would 100% come to this. But what I will say is when they included a no trade clause in the deal, that was kind of giving Myles at least a little bit of leverage. Obviously, we know in sports, sport to sport, leverage is so different. Like in the NBA, it's very player driven. In the NFL, probably less so. And when you're under contract, there's franchise tags and things that kind of tie you to a team for a long time, where they can just kind of like make you sit around if they really wanted to. And so it makes it a lot harder to actually like force your way out of a situation, as Myles kind of learned last year. But giving him that no trade clause where he had to sign off on things if they were to trade him was kind of their way of giving him at least a little bit of power in this situation where, they weren't going to be able to just trade him to some low-level team that is playing for draft order next year. So, I think in some respects, once that was part of the deal, that probably did set the tone for it. It didn't close the door entirely on Myles being traded ever. And also to your point, Gene, like, last year, the trade request as a whole, like those things that Myles said about the state of the organization and not having a quarterback and sort of being on different timelines, highlighting the fact that he wants to win now and the organization is not really ready to do that, that didn't change in the last year. So in some respects, like I think Myles probably still had some of those thoughts internally, even if he wasn't voicing them publicly this year, and he had gotten the contract sort of in hand at this point. So I think that didn't go away. And so I think this probably was kind of a best of both worlds scenario where, we'll help you out, and the deal that we got kind of helps us out in terms of what we're trying to accomplish as we enter like a full rebuilding phase.
Yeah, Spencer, I'm glad you brought up the no trade. Before you came on, Because all right, in Buffalo, Western New York, not different than any other like mark in the NFL. Like, how come we couldn't have done that? And I'm like, well, a couple things. One, for the Bills roster isn't a player that fits the category of really good young talent on defense that hasn't gotten their contract yet in Jared Verse. Number two is the no trade clause. And maybe he would have, maybe he wouldn't. Well, maybe we'll never know. Probably we'll never know. But he did waive it for Los Angeles. And this is theory number two. And I'm sure you've read and heard this. I'm like, oh, yeah, he's dating Chloe Kim, the snowboarder. Theory number two. Did she have an influence on this, Spencer?
I'm sure it didn't hurt. I'm pretty sure she's based out there, and obviously I know he's been doing a lot of traveling this summer with her over in Asia and seeing all these different things and all these different countries and posting about it on Instagram while the team's kind of been here in Cleveland for voluntary workouts and things, which, by the way, like Miles has always kind of skipped those. And Andrew Berry said today that, he made his travel plans very clear to the team when the off season sort of started. So that wasn't necessarily news to them. But yeah, I'm sure it doesn't hurt. I'm sure that they're excited about the lifestyle change that's out there in LA and California. Probably makes things a little bit easier from a relationship standpoint for them. There's always, these other influences. It's just like any other person who is looking at job opportunities and surveying, like, does this make sense for my family? And I know Miles, from what I understand, like this is a pretty serious relationship with Chloe. Like I think there are, at least at some point, plans of them trying to tie the knot eventually and all those things, and he certainly sees it that way. So this kind of gives them some stability out there where they can kind of do that, and I'm sure that could have weighed into it, but I don't know that this was like a forced thing, like it was going to be LA. And honestly, I think if Buffalo had maybe the caliber of player that the Rams did in Jared Verse that the Browns were looking for, I could have seen Miles certainly saying yes to that because of the level. For him, it's always been about the quarterback. And like the level of quarterbacks that those teams have, I think would have been fine with Miles because he wants to chase a championship. The bigger part of it is, were the Browns going to get the right haul back in return? And clearly they coveted trying to get a player, like you mentioned, that was cost controllable, young, early in their career, where you could still give them an extension, and that was going to serve as kind of a replacement to Myles Garrett. Or I guess it could have been a quarterback, but who's giving up a quarterback?
So I guess you kind of answered my next question in a way, but like if we're doing the comparison, right, and this isn't the first deal we've had like this, like the Micah Parsons deal. Micah Parsons goes from Dallas to Green Bay for 2 firsts. I'm going to throw in Max Crosby, even though they got Ixnay, but kind of same sort of deal. Like, did the Browns get enough in this trade, in your opinion, Spencer, compared to those other deals?
Yeah, I think they did. And there's been a lot. This has been the big topic of conversation here in Cleveland the last 24 hours or so since this all went down. The idea that, did they get enough? And it's hard because when these conversations started, there was these visions of what a Myles Garrett trade would net you, and people got caught up in the idea of like the conversation starts at like 3 firsts. And I do think that's a fair sort of value to put on it because Myles is that good. He's a generational talent, best non-quarterback in football. I think that's hard to argue against. And so I sort of said I thought 3 firsts made a lot of sense as well. And so you get to a point where you don't see on the return the values of like, okay, here's 3 tangible firsts that are sort of in your hand here. But I also, as I take a step back from it and like think about what they got in return, Jared Verse is a guy who in his first 2 years obviously won Defensive Rookie of the Year, put up better numbers in his second season, has a chance to keep getting better. And do I think he's Myles Garrett or he'll ever be Myles Garrett? No. Like I would never say that or suggest that. But if the Rams are just trying to trade Jared Verse like straight up right now, he would be worth like a first-round pick plus to some team out there. So in a way, you kind of got a player who's valued at a first-round pick plus. You got at least the one future first in 2027 next year, which is, as we know, the year that the Browns are probably looking to pursue a quarterback in this class that's coming out and find that guy and finally answer that question. So that helps your cause there. And then a second in 2028 and a third in 2029. Maybe you could have tried to push for like, well, let's make it another first in 2028, and instead of the 2 day 2 picks, maybe we can kind of nix those for a first, and I think that would have been fine. But I truly think like the value makes a lot of sense, and that this trade isn't some like lopsided thing. I've seen a lot of the national pundits saying similar things, that they think the Browns made out pretty well here in the grand scheme of things when you're trading a generational player, and then it's kind of a win-win for both sides. I'll also say this. I understand the lure of picks, but this Browns franchise, even up to as recently as last year with Andrew Berry, has constantly been criticized for not being able to hit on picks or not finding the right players to draft with those picks. You kind of take that out of the equation when you get Jared Verse, because instead of taking a gamble on like, well, we're going to scout, evaluate a guy, and then draft him to try to replace Myles Garrett, you now have a guy who's a proven commodity at the NFL level, who's done it for 2 years, who's young, and that you kind of have control over now for the next 4 to 5 years at least, if you so choose to fill that void at defensive end. So you're kind of cutting out the middleman on having to go through the process of drafting a guy, which is always a crapshoot. And so I think from that standpoint, if you're somebody who doesn't trust Andrew Berry to get some of these things right, even though his last 2 drafts have kind of universally been praised, and rightfully so, then I think that's a part of this equation too that people aren't considering. So I overall liked the return, and I think it makes a lot of sense for the Browns, while getting Myles Garrett also makes a lot of sense for the Rams.
Yeah, and you brought up the quarterbacks, and I'm from the outside, it doesn't look like you have the answer, but if you had to assess the situation at quarterback right now here in the spring mini camps coming up, is there any hope at quarterback this year, Spencer? Does it look like to you that this will be Deshaun Watson in the end if all things are equal here?
If there's any hope, in my opinion, it's Shedeur Sanders, that like maybe he can develop and turn into that star franchise quarterback that some thought he could be coming out of college. I had some high expectations for him coming out of college. I think last year obviously tempered those to a degree, but different coach, second year in the league, like things can obviously change. I don't think it's a work ethic issue either. Like I think Shedeur Sanders wants to be great, and he tries to put in the time to be great and get better. So I think that's certainly not a question. The question is, like, does he have enough talent in him to become that franchise guy? But it certainly does right now feel like Deshaun Watson's kind of the leader in the clubhouse. And honestly, I tried to warn people about this. Like, that's not surprising that this time of year, especially where you're not in full pads, there's no contact, it's not game settings, that Deshaun Watson, who's a veteran in this league, looks like the better quarterback. Of the guys in this room, he's clearly the most talented, clearly the most experienced. So he should look like the best quarterback. But the problem for Deshaun has always been on game days. And so until we get to, preseason and you can see it sort of in action, and he has to sort of process and go through his reads and see things. And it seems like the mental side of it's kind of been a big bugaboo for him the last several years. And also, like, is he going to look as athletic as he does right now when he's got a defense chasing him from an opposing team trying to bring him down after the Achilles tear? Like, that's another big question. So, like, I would say this, like, trading Myles, they don't make that trade if they for sure know they have the answer at quarterback, because Myles is a player that you want to be part of that winning culture if you think you're in position to do that. So, to me, I think 2026 does become this sort of gap year where, yeah, you're going to assess what you got. Maybe there's something in Shedeur Sanders, but that they're setting the stage for figuring out what they're going to do at quarterback next year. This move was made with that in mind, and that the idea here is that they come away with one of these guys in the 2027 class when push comes to shove.
Last one for you, Spencer, because there is a guy on the Browns roster that I really, really wanted to land in Western New York. He's from Rochester. Well, he lived here till he was 3, but we're still claiming him. What are the early returns have you seen so far from KC Concepcion?
Yeah, so I think KC is they're banking on him being such an important part of all this. And I do remember seeing that he was obviously from a Western New York guy from during the pre-draft process, and I thought that was kind of cool. And I know that he was on the Bills' radar as well. I know you guys had talked about a ton. Him being somebody that the Bills should certainly look at when they were going to be on the clock in the 20s if he had made it that far. And I had some questions because of the drops in college. Going back and watching some of the tape, like, I don't think that was all on him. I think there was some times where it was on the quarterback, or the quarterback maybe underthrew a ball and he had to come back to it. And then there was coverage in his face. Like, it was not all drops are created equal in that way. And I think that you've seen some of that here in the early stages. Like, he's a young player trying to get adapted to the NFL. There's been some drops already, but there's also been some really impressive catches. And so from that standpoint, I totally understood why the Browns liked him, why Todd Monken liked him. He kind of fits the prototype of what he had in Baltimore with Zay Flowers, guy that you just kind of want to get the ball to in space and then kind of let go to work. And when he does catch the ball, man, is he explosive. He's impressive. I think there's a lot to like there. I still think, I'm interested to see how his role evolves and where they kind of use him. I compared him to Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers primarily still lines up outside and then spends, about 30 to 40% of his time in the slot at times. I think he maxed out at like 38 or 39% one year in the slot. So I think there's some room for him to kind of bounce around. But he's going to have a major impact on this season as far as the passing game is concerned because they just didn't have a lot of talent at that position last year, and they didn't have a lot of guys they could rely on. Jerry Jeudy is even Andrew Berry called him still like the workhorse receiver or the bell cow receiver of this group. So I think they expect him to still put up some numbers. But KC's kind of that next guy in line now to create some opportunities, and I think he has a chance to maybe even lead the team in a lot of those receiving stats because of what his role could be, just trying to kind of get open over the middle and then make plays with the ball in his hands. So we'll see what it looks like and how it evolves. But I think there's a lot of excitement, obviously, about Casey Concepcion and the elements that he brings to this offense. It's
a story I think we're going to learn more details. This is my hunch. Myles Garrett is an LA Ram, and the Browns preparing, for a season that might be a gap year. As Spencer German, in his words, joining us. Spencer, tell everybody about Locked On Browns and when we might be able to catch you inside the Odyssey app as well.
Yeah, I obviously Locked On, part of the Locked On Browns, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Find it wherever you get your podcasts. It's a Monday through Friday. Sometimes there's some bonus stuff. Like yesterday, obviously we had some good stuff with the Miles situation, and we'll have some more for you this week on that. And then on the Odyssey front here at 92 to the Fan, I host our Saturday show. 8 to noon every Saturday with my guy Earl. So you can check me out there as well. And, always appreciate you having me on, Gene. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Spencer. Appreciate you filling us in. Spencer German, 92.3 The Fan in Cleveland, as we would say, our sister station. That's my theory. And I'm going to present it where Spencer's like, maybe. Let me present this to our Browns fan here, Tim Schneider. So Myles Garrett, this is a fact. I want to trade. And puts out the statement, and then a few weeks go by, and then all of a sudden, here's your new contract, kumbaya, everything's happy. Okay. Was that what it was all about? My theory is this, is that Myles Garrett wasn't all full of it, that he wasn't happy about certain things, but he still wasn't a free agent, still couldn't move. And rather than kick and scream, this would have been a handshake. Okay, we're going to treat you like a man. We're going to give this 1 year. Here's your money, 1 year, and we want you here long term. But we'll do right by you if it's not for you after 1 year. Tim Schneider, are you buying my theory?
I can hear your theory. I want to give Andrew Berry the benefit of the doubt to some extent because he was pretty adamant in saying yesterday and today that Myles Garrett did not request a trade this season, but the way that you present it means that, hey, like,
that was
I went out
year,
next year.
Yeah.
I went out last year, but if you don't get it right between now and then, get me out of here, but let's do it nicely. And I think that with that contract reassessment back in March or whatever it was to push it down the line, I didn't think anything of it in the time. I didn't think it mattered at all. It was a nothing to me. But then this happens, and the conspiracy theories light up again. And
no, I think that was everything. The contract was like, oh, this is opened up the window.
Yeah, we talked about the contract, and then the rule idea of, hey, let's make this a 5-year window of being able to trade picks, and then all these things kind of accumulate together, and it's like you're trading a generational talent, and you want as much back possible as you can get, and without Jared Verse, you'd have to think that would have been 3 or 4 first-round picks. And I don't know the answer, and I don't think we'll ever get the real answer, but it makes you wonder.
I would have held out for another young talent, but if it's a no-trade thing, and this is where poor Chloe Kim, she's getting vilified by some Browns fans. Too bad.
Yeah.
Too bad. Like, look, honestly, like, this is life. Like, read the room. And had the Browns found a quarterback and God knows you've had how many cracks at this.
Too many.
Too many. Like, and you're winning games, then maybe it doesn't come to this. We'll have Tim's terrible take coming up. We will also talk to my favorite Spurs fan. I only know one Spurs fan, but this guy's really good. RJ Ochoa, blogging the boys, as I am from the Dallas perspective. What did he think about that Myles Garrett deal? Are you looking at that saying, that's all they got for that? Are you kidding me? Or we should have been in on that if we're Dallas. Look, Bills fans, you're not alone on this. Every other fan base is saying, wait a second, that's what Los Angeles gave up? We should have been in on that. Time for your calls as well. The Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line at 866-4326. Gene Battaglia here, WGR Rochester.
Everywhere in the Odyssey, iHeartRadio, or TuneIn apps.
Hello, it's Gene Battaglia. Shopping for double pane windows? Well, nothing beats the new Illuminate window upgrade from Window Nation. The new Illuminate windows are designed to offer triple pane performance with the look and weight of double pane. That's because they use Triton Advanced Triple Pane Glass, which means Window Nation's Illuminate windows are more energy efficient. They reduce outside noise by 15% or more and offer more glass area than comparable windows. That all adds up to windows that are easier to open, have an unmatched level of clarity, and make your home comfortable year-round. Plus, they're backed by a limited lifetime warranty. And now's the best time to upgrade your home's windows during Window Nation's Buy 4, Get 4 free sale. Imagine replacing all your windows with new Illuminate ones and getting half of them for free. Plus, you can even get them with no money down and no monthly payments or interest for 2 years. Illuminate windows, available exclusively from the trusted partners at Window Nation. Schedule a consultation now by calling Window Nation at 866-90NATION or go to windownation.com.
HD2 Rochester and everywhere you go at WGR Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. WGR Rochester. Sports Update.
Taking center stage tonight, the National Hockey League. It's Game 1, Vegas at Carolina. Stanley Cup Final to begin. In his first final as head coach, Carolina's Rod Brindamore.
This is where we've thought we should be for a long time, and it's just been a long road. And I'm just thrilled for the guys to have this opportunity now. And that's, like I said, that feels like for 8 years we've been talking about getting this chance. So we're finally here, and obviously we want to make the most of it.
Bills OTAs continuing today in Orchard Park. The Rochester Red Wings on the road this week. 6-game series begins tonight at Lehigh Valley. All the action in the majors under the lights, including the Yankees opening a series in the Bronx against Cleveland. The Mets are out in Seattle. NBA Finals begin tomorrow. The Knicks, Game 1 at San Antonio. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. WGR Rochester.
Stay for a while, you're in the sports bar on WGR. Grab a drink, hang your coke, and sports talk. Live from Western New York. It's a master show. 9 times better than your typical host. 9 times. Gene and Tim have takes much harder than most. No one cares when you're out. Sabres, Bills, Americans, Red Wings, and Nighthawks. For Rochester Sports Talk.
Hour number 2 in the sports bar. You found us. The sun is out. Welcome on in. Pull up a stool. Join us. Crack open a cold one if you like. Some of us will be doing that later. Knicks San Antonio tomorrow night. Cannot wait. Look, I would put the NHL ahead of the NBA in our town, but I would put the Knicks San Antonio ahead of Vegas Carolina in terms of the interest. That's just my read on this. I might be wrong, but seeing the Knicks tomorrow at San Antonio, and I think it's kind of simple for the Knicks. Like, what won that for San Antonio, and Wembanyama was great. The Spurs hit their 3-point shots. So, to me, if the Knicks can play defense, and yes, you have the center with a broken pinky, we're not going to dive deep into the X's and O's. This is more of like a fan conversation. RJ Ochoa, who is from San Antonio, is a Spurs fan. And, blocking the boys. SB Nation will be joining us here later this hour. Time for you to give us a call if you like. 866-4326. That is our phone number, probably the area code being 585. Before we get to terrible take Timmy's terrible today, Jake DeGrom had a milestone win last night.
He did.
Win 100 of his career. He's 37. Does that floor anybody else? And you can say, Gene, you're just a Met fan hater. Okay, I admit the bias there because, my gosh, how many injuries? How much disappointment did you have? And then you're going to get up and leave when the money was even? I'm not sure how we're going to look back at the career of Jacob deGrom because at times he was brilliant. Best pitcher in the game. How I think we're going to look back as like, my gosh, was there ever a guy that had more muscle pulls or obliques or major like he is going to be the example we will give, like what could have been. And I'm sorry, like you could trot out any metric you want. That's not Hall of Fame. He's only at 100 wins. Wins should still mean something. They should. And for DeGrom, I was just a little stunned like that. That's all he's at? That's almost stunning to me. He's won the Cy Young twice. He's only had 100 career wins at 37 years old. Now, what could help him rewrite this? And this would be interesting. And it's possible. Like, let's say he does stay in shape. And let's say it's not crazy to think he can get 7-8 more years. You can do it these days. I'm not sure if he wants to. But, time flies. Like, with Jake DeGrom, like, oh, wow, he's already 37 years old. RJ Ochoa coming up in a little bit. Let's see if this guy's calmed down at all.
It's now time for Terrible Time Timmy's Terrible Take of the Day on WGR Rochester.
cannot calm down. It is somehow getting progressively worse the more and more we go. Like we've sat. It's been just about 25 hours now, and as soon as the show ended yesterday, I kind of like melted into my chair a little bit, had to decompress, and then sat in my car and did it for about 25 minutes in there before actually leaving for the day. And then I get home and I jump on Twitter just to see how people are reacting. And the first three things in the span of 15 minutes are the Browns as a fan or as a franchise, as a Twitter social media manager, just pumping out cope. They start with the trade details. That's fine. That makes sense. We made a trade. This is what it is. And then within 10 minutes of that, a statement from the general manager, Andrew Berry, and a statement from Jimmy Haslam. And those statements are rationalizing the trade. You don't have to put out a statement if you don't make a trade. And if you have to put out a statement to make the trade, maybe you just don't make the trade. And we get to now wonder what these next 3 years of draft picks are going to be. And Jared Verse could end up in Canton. Very well possible. But he's 25, and he's only been in the league for 2 years. That's old for a guy who's 25. That's only 5 years younger than Myles Garrett, who's been in the league for 10 years. And that is not somebody that you want to put the eggs in the basket of. Could end up being a Hall of Famer. That's fine. But he's not Myles Garrett, and the picks might become something as well. But you don't have to do that when the guy is already a certified Hall of Famer in Myles Garrett. You do not need to make that trade unless, like what you said earlier, they were doing him right. But they could have done him right in Cleveland.
You see, you're not subscribing to my theory that this was, I'm only going to do this for 1 year. And now you're going to move me. And like that, this is just whatever happened Super Bowl week leading up to the Eagles and Patriots that never got fully resolved. And if you need the owner to put out a statement, then yeah, that just means, all right, you're acknowledging that your fan base is not going to be happy about this. I find it interesting that the pendulum swung where our initial reaction was, that's it? Okay, Jared Verse is a good player, but you're going to be getting a first-round pick, which will be, what, at worst,
best 26.
Right, yeah, I was going to say 28. Like the Rams NFC Championship game, boom, you could pencil them in right now. Like, what are you doing? Oh, well, you need a quarterback. That's capital. Okay, maybe you really, really suck again. You can pick in the top 5. How the pendulum swung from, oh, the Browns won this trade. How? Who's the best player here? And the idea that the Rams, Tim, you went to the Rams, and you're going to have to deal with this. This is the ex-girlfriend who is going to be beaming and beautiful, and maybe she lost a few pounds, and there's nothing you can do about it. Because you're going to see your ex-girlfriend on national television, and you're going to see her having a great time and having success that you could never provide her. This is what the worst thing isn't coming up. Every time the Rams are on, you're going to hate it.
I'm not. I'm happy for Myles Garrett because I think it's good for him to be in a position to actually succeed within, like, he was already successful. He's a Hall of Famer right now. He could retire tonight and be in Canton in 5 years. No doubt about it. Immediately. But now he gets to do it with a team that will also be more successful than he's ever played with in Cleveland. And that was 2 playoff runs, not runs, but playoff appearances. This is different. This Rams team is nasty. And he's now part of that and possibly the best part of it.
I think and again, more like when the Rams bring back Aaron Donald. And what will be the over-under on when they bring back Aaron Donald?
I'm going to say 7 weeks from now, right when camp revs up.
I was going to say August 1st. So we're almost
within a week.
Within a week. And then when he shows up at camp, he's not really participating because he's got to get himself in football shape. You work off to the The Rams are not the example for this, by the way. They don't play their starters in the preseason. Sean McVay, my gosh, you want to talk about a team that knows how to handle their veterans? It's the Rams. Like, who cares? We don't need the preseason. Don't care. Like that goes a long way as compared to like the Harbaugh Ravens, and I'm sure the Giants are going to dig in. Photos today. Thank you, Tim. I mean, like, we're here for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And anybody that wants to befriend Tim and just let him know you care, you can find Tim on X at WompFump.
Yes.
Yes, that is. I don't want to go into that story, how you ended up with that handle.
I don't even know it anymore, but
no, it's like, yeah, you could change it. You could just be like, terrible take Timmy. Just kind of own that a little bit. There are the happy pictures. Yep, A.J. Brown today at Patriot OTAs. And he's catching balls and he's smiling. And this is where I wanted to be all along. Fantastic. Good for you. Does this, in my mind, make the Patriots a bigger threat to the Buffalo Bills? No. I think you're just trading out one receiver for another. Diggs isn't there anymore. Diggs gave that team something last year, and as Brown will this year, I'm sure. But my question is, all right, now we're at June 2nd, and you saw the Giants just go to the 5 and dime. Turns out what they're paying these guys, Berrios and Juju and an OBJ, they pay him the league minimum.
As they should.
Yeah. So where does this leave Stephon Diggs? Is Stephon Diggs willing to take a league minimum deal? Probably not. But with Diggs, there comes a lot of other stuff. And we should point out that he was acquitted of that. So, okay, that's fine. But you do know he was on a boat with it. Like, there's a lot of noise went around Diggs. And when Diggs was here in Buffalo, it was fantastic. It was something we hadn't seen before. Franchise quarterback dealing to a true number one, and it was great until it wasn't so great. And, I mean, if there's an analogy between the theories here, and again, nope, you didn't dispel my theory about Myles Garrett, like saying, all right, I'm going to try this for a year, and if it doesn't work, I'm out. I think that was the case with Diggs. When Diggs had his blow-up with Sean McDermott, it's June minicamp, right? And I could imagine I'm done. I'm not coming back. And, because of the contract and all the dead cap, it was literally impossible if you wanted to keep the roster intact. And I could have seen, hey, all right, Stephon, you've got to be a good soldier here. We can't do anything, but we're going to do right by you. And after the season, we will trade you. And Diggs started out this season okay, and it was like at the midway point when actually Joe Brady took over as coordinator, where Diggs was like a non-factor. And so by the time he was dealt by Buffalo, it was like, oh, but deep down we really knew it wasn't a surprise at all. Diggs is now 32. 32 years old for Stephon Diggs. And if these other guys that I'm going to call contemporaries, because that's what they are, right? And give a year or two here or there, are only getting, basically prove-it deals. Diggs has no options here. He might end up in Washington. He might end up somewhere else. I'm seeing chatter that he could end up in New England. I don't think so.
I think his attitude dictates kind of what he's going to get paid too, because of the off-the-field stuff and the fact that it's been more than 1 year of like a nuisance and a distraction. Like, you don't play for 4 teams in that short amount of time and then get to dictate what your contract will be on the next team.
Right. He's kind of over a barrel here. Like, whatever he did it's going to have to be incentive laden. And I think everything is worth examining. Yeah. There's not enough on this Bills wide receiver room right now, but it's because of 17, you wouldn't do it in the end. I would look at everything right now. Is there a wide receiver? Like, if OBJ came in Buffalo, okay, does he have anything left? Like, that should have been, like, and maybe he didn't want to come here, maybe like New York, that go make it full circle. Like, will we have, before week 1, kind of a veteran wide receiver signed by the Buffalo Bills? I'm going to tell you, it's not Stephon Diggs. I'm sure that's one idea that, okay, would you bring him in? And at the end, no, because what the good doesn't outweigh the bad. It doesn't outweigh everything else. And right now, like in terms of what's available out there, Tyreek Hill, I don't want any part of that. But I would expect somebody. One player I do think that we forgot about was on this team. When we talked to Sal Capaccio last week, Trent Sherfield. Like, he might end up being like that sort of Tyrell Shavers, let me block. I'll be the sixth wide receiver on this team. 585-866-4326 is our phone number. We've had a fun show today. Spencer German from the Lockdown Browns podcast, 92.3 The Fan in Cleveland, and he takes our calls because, you know what, he's from Rochester. That is something. Tomorrow we'll learn more about the Buffalo Bills offense. You could learn about it tonight when you get home because today was the day they opened up One Bills Drive to the media, and the media availability is centered around Pete Carmichael, the new offensive coordinator, who has that title, but really this is Joe Brady's offense. And I'm skipping ahead here to the end. Well, before I skip ahead to the end, we're going to have a game in October that if the Bills do what they're supposed to do, congrats to ESPN for landing this game. Or is that it's a Sunday night game? Tim, look that up. Bills-Rams. Now, why am I drawing a blank? I know it's prime time. Is that Monday night or is that Sunday night?
That will fall on
that's a Sunday night.
A Monday night.
Okay, that's Monday Night Football. Wow. All right, congrats to ESPN/ABC, because if the Bills get off to a good start, that's going to be billed as a Super Bowl preview. What do you do if you're facing a defensive line with Myles Garrett and we're all anticipating a return from one Aaron Donald? Aaron Donald, who's putting out videos of him working out, Trey Wingo earlier saying, let's say it's more than just imagination. All you can tell you right now, this was the AI photo of these two guys standing next to each other in Rams gear. How do you deal with that? I'll tell you how. You run the damn ball. That's still going to be a part of this Bills offense. And I know everybody is really excited to see let Josh cook. Let him rip it around. But I think what a great offense will do is, hey, 1 week we're going to beat you this way, and the next week we're going to beat you this way. You still have James Cook on this team. You still have Ray Davis on this team. Ty Johnson is great leaking out of the backfield. To me, you're Josh Allen and the Bills. You don't have to stand in the pocket facing the Rams pass rush. Like, you can do other things and make sure that, all right, these are guys that can get up the field, but you know what? We're just going to come right at you, and we're going to come downhill. And it's not sexy. It's not interesting to some people. To me, I think it's going to be vital. Tell me about this offensive line. Tell me about Deion Dawkins because, well, last year wasn't great for Deion by his standard. You have a new left guard this year. David Edwards isn't there anymore. Are we just expecting Alec Anderson to come in, or how's that all going to look? And then we're just assuming everybody else is going to be good on that offensive line. So, to me, the offensive line and the running game, look, Josh Allen is the team, but we focus sometimes on the wide receivers and how the Bills have missed and how things haven't worked and how Brandon Beane doesn't, put in the resources. But the reality is that if they have that line and you can run the football again, it's going to keep you in most games. And in the situation where the Bills will be an underdog, I can tell you that right now. I'm sure there's advanced lines for Bills and Rams week, whatever it is, 6-7 out in Los Angeles. The Bills won't be favored. That should be the Rams a slight favor, especially now that they got Myles Garrett. My gosh. 585. Steeler fans, how are you feeling? Now you don't have to deal with Myles Garrett anymore. Or if you're
Mason Rudolph is very thankful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That would love to know the real story behind that. Joining us next, RJ Ochoa. This will be fun because listen, we'll clear the dance floor for a Spurs fan. Let him talk. RJ Ochoa, really good dude. Blogging the boys. We'll talk some Dallas Cowboys, NFL as well. Gene Battaglia along with Dan DeLorean and Tim Schneider here. WGR Rochester.
And AM 950 WGR Rochester.
Gene Battaglia for Window Nation. Look, if you're shopping for double pane windows, Well, forget that. Nothing beats the new Illuminate window upgrade from Window Nation. The new Illuminate windows are designed to offer triple pane performance with the look and weight of double pane. That's because they use Triton Advanced triple pane glass, which means Window Nation's Illuminate windows are more energy efficient, they reduce outside noise by 15% or more, and they offer more glass area than comparable windows. That all adds up to windows that are easier to open and have an unmatched level of clarity and make your home comfortable year-round. Plus, they're backed by a limited lifetime warranty. And now's the best time to upgrade your home's windows during Window Nation's Buy 4, Get 4 free sale. Imagine placing all your windows with new Illuminate ones and getting half of them for free. Plus, you could even get them with no money down and no monthly payments or interest for 2 years. Illuminate windows available exclusively from the trusted experts at Window Nation. Tell them we sent you. Schedule a consultation now by calling Window Nation at 866-90NATION or go to windownation.com.
2946. Odyssey is an equal opportunity employer.
WGR Rochester Sports Update.
NBA Finals begin tomorrow night. Game 1, Knicks at San Antonio. Tonight, however, it's the Stanley Cup Final. Vegas at Carolina. Former Sabre Jack Eichel, the Golden Knights now on having that experience.
I think every year is different, and this experience is different in a lot of ways than it was in 23, and things change year to year. And I think you can draw from your experience a little bit, just knowing what to expect, right? Having had done it before, knowing what this is going to look like, and the things that come with playing in the finals.
Bills organized team activities continuing today. We'll talk some football and some NBA. RJ Ochoa, Blogging the Boys, will join us next year in the Sports Bar. Rochester Red Wings half game out in the race for first as they begin a 6-game series tonight at Lehigh Valley. All the action in the majors under the lights. Yankees opening the series at home against Cleveland. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader. 95.7 AM 950, WGR Rochester.
Straight up with no chaser. You're in the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester.
You know, normally I would say to somebody, Spurs fan, boo this man. Boo him now. But we love him too much. RJ Ochoa, good friend of the show. RJ, I got to say, you're the only Spurs fan I know. It's good to have you on today. It's gonna be really bad, RJ, when the Knicks win this in 6. Now, RJ, how are you today?
It's great to be with you guys. Happy pre-hump day. I feel like we don't say that a lot in the general lexicon, so I'm trying to make it a thing. Tough scene. Drawing Wemby and the Spurs. Your first time back in forever. I mean, seriously, imagine being a franchise that hasn't been to a championship game in like 30 years. I can't imagine the poverty levels of that. But yeah, it's nice to know that the Corgi's on our side at least, because it sounds like you guys are.
30 years. Are you talking about the Bills, RJ? You're talking about the Knicks? I mean, for the Knicks, championship, we're talking 1973. Willis Reed. We're talking that era. And for me, and I don't know like if where this predates you, to me, the one that hurts the most for a Knicks fan, it's still 1994. This is Knicks, and Jordan isn't around. Knicks against Houston, and here's John Starks, and he can't hit the broadside of a barn, and the Knicks end up flaming out in Game 7. RJ, I'm still, that's 1994. I'm still not over that yet, RJ. Just let us have this year, buddy. You've won enough championships down there in San Antonio.
Yeah, but we had this great thing going where they hadn't lost a single one, and then the Heat ruined that in 2013. So Pop and Co. had to respond by completely and totally dismantling that group. I was talking about the Cowboys, to be fair, because I can dish it and take it, just to be fully honest. But I did not mean to drag the Bills into that. That was definitely an accidental oversight on my part. It's fun. I believe when I first met y'all, I was still living in San Antonio, and the culture of who the Spurs are is, I think, pretty well known, but when they're like this, it really is like your local high school, small college team. I mean, it's something that infiltrates the entire community. And so everybody's really excited. Can't believe that they're back and back this strong so soon.
How does San Antonio have only one major league team at this point, RJ? I mean, it's a Spurs town, but I figured somebody else would have moved in by this point.
Yeah, I think they've tried the non-NFL professional football circuit. They if you recall, the Alliance of American Football, the San Antonio Commanders were a thing, and then Washington stole all of their IP when they rebranded. They've had the Brahmas, depending on how you want to categorize that. That's a topic of debate as well. And I think the real difficulty for them is that they're so close from a proximity standpoint to Dallas and to Houston. And so they've got these neighboring metropolises that make it difficult for them to, kind of have a seat at the table. But the Spurs have always been the team that just kind of, made it through that. And honestly, shout out to the 99 Spurs, because if not for them, I mean, the franchise might be in Las Vegas. It was the success that the franchise had right then at the turn of the century that kind of forced the city to keep them there. And obviously all the success they had afterwards just kind of added to the fact.
Yeah, what are your thoughts now? Because I've always had tremendous respect for Greg Popovich, But to hear him kind of give the talk, that we're this is the Oklahoma series, OKC series where, hey, we're not being physical enough. Pop comes in, and has he been visible at all? Your thoughts on Pop and how he's going to have to take this different role here now?
Yeah, it is strange in that, he is this mythical figure, but the persona of who he is and how he's viewed has sort of become even more mythical, if that makes sense. And obviously everyone is wishing him well and praying for him and just, life after basketball. But his involvement, his just kind of touching of the franchise is legendary at this point. And I think that when you recognize, that dates all the way back to the Minnesota series as well for the Spurs in the semifinal on the Western side of things. Pop just saying, you know what, you got to do this, you got to handle this. And Mitch Johnson is a Pop disciple, and so you kind of feel like you have Pop out there on some level, but it is mysterious, and that kind of adds to the overall ambiance of what is happening here. Have you guys seen the meme? It's a very popular meme of an older Master Splinter with the Ninja Turtles like walking him. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like Splinter is obviously the rat who taught the Ninja Turtles all the martial arts and whatnot. And the meme is him as a much older figure, and the Turtles having grown into adulthood and taking care of him now because he ushered them into life and adulthood past the obvious teenage years. And that's kind of what this is. It does feel like the franchise now is taking care of Pop and drawing whatever wisdom or spirit it is that he wants to embark upon them.
We've got a bunch of questions about the Cowboys and the NFL, but I want to just stick on the Spurs here and get your thoughts on Wembanyama, because here he is, NBA Finals, and if you look at the history of the NBA, RJ, quite often the guy who shows up and is a generational talent wins the thing the first time they're there, like Magic Johnson. Larry Bird, when he first arrived, it wasn't against Magic the first time out. It was against Houston, and he wins a championship. And Jordan wins a championship. Now, LeBron did not. That was actually your Spurs who kind of wrecked that, but he would later get his. What are your thoughts on Wembanyama already being on this stage here in year two?
Yeah, to your point, I recall, this may be a Mandela effect for me, but I recall after the Spurs swept the Cavs in 2007, Tim Duncan going on record and saying that he told LeBron in the locker after, hey, look, you're going to run this league. Thanks for letting us have tonight. Some sort of quote along those lines. And to your point, I would offer that someone like Luka Doncic, if you lose that first finals, that is kind of a mark of maybe you aren't the chosen one type thing. And I think that Wemby is just, it is, I was talking to my wife, obviously, on Saturday night after, the Spurs won and about him getting emotional. And she was asking for my thoughts. Only the brightest people in the world ask for my thoughts in the world of sports, as you guys well know. And I was saying, it must be just this incredible sort of catharsis to be anointed as this chosen one, as Neo, right? Like you are the one, you are the prophecy, and to deliver upon it, right? Like what that must feel like in an existential sort of way. And Wemby has always kind of been aware of that. To be clear, we're talking about him being highly skilled at a game, right? Highly skilled in the world of basketball, but to deliver upon that, and to your point, to start, only reaching the parts of the trail that were blazed by the greatest of greats. He is in enormously rarefied air at this point. But the weird thing is, and I think this is, as Spurs fans, where we're kind of, there's this juxtaposition of past meeting present, is it is this incredibly unique path that he is on, but it is identical to Tim Duncan and to the centerpiece of what made the franchise, what it is and the way that everybody around the world reveres it today. And so I think that, the Kawhi situation obviously burned a lot of people, but the Kawhi, and this is not just hindsight, you'll have to take my word for it, never seemed to embrace that never seemed to, read the books of old, if you will. Wemby has always been somebody that seemed to understand the sort of monumental task that it would be to carry being a San Antonio Spur, and more than anything, the uniqueness that is being a San Antonio Spur. With all due respect to the New York Knicks, if you're a superstar with the Spurs, you're not the conventional superstar. You are a little bit more sort of out in the middle of nowhere relative to obviously the media capital of the world. And not everyone likes that life. Not everyone likes that walk. And Wemby seems to just be the perfect representation. He is a dream. He's an absolute dream as a basketball player and as a human being, and that's why San Antonio loves him.
So what do you think that is going to be like at the Garden? And RJ, New York City downstate, it's, about sports. It's divided. Your Yankee fans don't like the Mets, vice versa. Jets, Giants, no. There are 3 hockey teams. There's really only one basketball team. No, nobody really cares about the Brooklyn Nets. That is a city that is going to be united, and sure, there's going to be some rich people, in the pretty seats there, but that is going to be a hostile environment. Your thoughts on the Spurs going up there for Game 3, and your thoughts here overall here on what we're just kind of hoping is going to be a really entertaining finals.
Yeah, look, I obviously want the Spurs to win, but I really respect the Knicks, and I really, like them as an organization. And it is cool, again, the poetry that's at play here. And I also think of all the storylines that we've seen, all the, I know there was the cat T-shirt that he wore, right, his first night or whatever. I haven't seen anyone mention that Jalen Brunson won a national championship in San Antonio. Granted, not the Spurs home building, but I was there that day, and so that's something that stuck in my mind. I just love all this crossover, and I do think that if you believe in the poetry, if you believe in those sorts of things, there is something to that the Spurs have to go to New York City to do this, right? They have to go to the Mecca. They have to go to the home of basketball. They have to go to literally the center of the earth. You have to go Bruce Willis style to the middle of the asteroid and press the button and explode it and, whatever. If Ben Affleck and Liv Tyler or whoever are going to be waiting for you on the other side, so be it. But I do think he has to go to the biggest place he possibly can because that's who he is, right? Like that's who Wemby is. That's the story to me. It's not David and Goliath. It's Goliath going to the land of giants, if that makes sense. And literally speaking, obviously, with regards to one of the football teams, to your point. So I fully expect the Knicks to be obviously well rested, but to throw everything they have at them. You mentioned that the Cavs series; those were Mike Brown's Cavaliers. I mean. There's a lot of past meeting present and a lot of present meeting future. And so that's a really exciting thing. But I'm excited that it's the Knicks. It would have been boring if it had been the Cavs or even if it had been the Sixers or the Celtics. This is the matchup that makes the most sense for Wemby's first time in the finals.
Yeah, and it seems like whatever it is at the Garden, you're calling it the Mecca, it just brings out the best in stars. Like how many times did Jordan light it up, even when he was with the Wizards? That's the one game that you could point to. Or Kobe, or anyone. Halliburton last year, single-handedly took out the Knicks, in my opinion. I just cannot wait to see Wemby on this stage. But as I'm looking at Game 7, and I watched the whole Game 7 there, he draws so much attention for the Spurs. How important is it for guys to knock down their shots? Because they're open threes, they're hitting open threes, and that pretty much did Oklahoma City in.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, when you're just a single person, it can't be done. I mean, to go back to, I think that the best example in maybe NBA history, certainly modern NBA history, that 07 Cavs team, if you recall, in the Eastern Conference Finals, LeBron's Cavs took out the mighty Pistons that had, dominated the Eastern side in the early 2000s. And what was that? He had like 35 straight points, or it was insane what he went on in that fourth quarter in overtime. And that team was amazing simply because of him. I mean, it was him and Boobie Gibson and Zildjius Ilgauskas or whatever. And so you have to have that help around you. And the Spurs don't just have help. I mean, the Spurs have superstars, budding superstars, growing superstars. Dylan Harper's really obviously come along as a rookie. Stephon Castle's really found his way. Devin Vassell is kind of the last holdover of the construction to get to where they are, and obviously is an incredible role player in his own right. But I would offer, everyone made such a big deal about the Luke Cornett block, which was a big deal because Luke Cornett is Wemby's off the floor. We have to survive, these minutes. And that they were able to do that and not just survive, but thrive in a critical moment was really representative to your point. And that, transcends eras for the Spurs. That has long been their thing, as I don't have to tell you. They are fully and totally team basketball. That was exactly who they were, 12 years ago, the last time they were at this moment was, just this team that, yes, they had the big three, obviously, and Kawhi, who was growing, but they also had Boris Diaw and Marco Bellinelli and Danny Green. I mean, they just had all these guys who had their moments and capitalized on every single one of them. And unbelievably, it seems like they've built that exact same sort of team yet again.
Yeah, it's a great point there about the Cornette block, because it wasn't lost on me that, okay, then he comes off the floor and his teammates are fired up for him. Like, oh, all right. That's like how deep that is. RJ, I got to pick your brain here about the trade yesterday, because I'm sure this is the conversation that many markets are having, right? Like, oh, Myles Garrett went for that. We should have been in on that. And to Bills fans here, I would point to, all right, there isn't a young defensive player that actually fits the bill like Jared Verse, like very talented, that you're not paying. And then there's also the no trade clause that who knows how that might have worked in Buffalo's favor or not. But the question here is, what has been the talk amongst Cowboy fans? Is there any feeling that you missed out on Myles Garrett yesterday?
Yeah, I think for Cowboys fans, there are two conversations. I would say there are three. One, the first one is, okay, well, the NFC is toast, right? At least if you're a Bills fan today, you can lose in the Super Bowl, right? So good for you. And also, at least you guys have been to a conference championship game. But I think, people are certainly saying, and like they're always saying, right, why couldn't it have been us? And to your point, the Cowboys don't have that piece. They don't have the Jared Verse. To kind of dance around or play around it. Plus, and this applies to everybody, they don't have the proof of concept that they can trade away their first-round picks and it can still work out. I mean, the Rams are obviously the poster child for that particular thing. And I would say the other conversation that is sort of a blend of the why couldn't it have been us is, well, why didn't Micah fetch that deal? Why didn't Micah, yield a Jared Verse in return in his trade? And to that, and look, I don't think I have to tell you guys, I am never shy to bag on the Cowboys. I will supply you the material to do so. I'm in no way going to defend these dudes for no reason. But when the Packers traded for Micah Parsons, they did so for the right to give him a record-setting contract extension. That was not the case here for Myles Garrett. The Rams just simply acquired the player and gave up the capital to do so. And so that made Micah a more difficult proposition in my mind, even though he's a younger player. But yeah, I mean, it does seem like the Rams are doing it again, and that's a very annoying thing. I like the Cowboys' odds, certainly, to win the NFC East, because A.J. Brown also left the division yesterday amid all the news. But yeah, it does feel like everyone, certainly on the NFC side of things, is looking up at L.A. right now.
Yeah, and last one for you, at least, okay, you got to deal with the Rams there at some point. Good news is A.J. Brown's out of the division. I mean, what is the gap right now between Dallas and Philadelphia, the rest of the division? I'm not ready to put the Giants, and I think the Washington took a half step back. But the question is, the Cowboys, how would you handicap their chances of winning division this year, RJ?
Yeah, I mean, I know I've told you guys, I think the Cowboys front office has spent the last 2 years being petulant children. I mean, just being as toxic as they possibly could. And that has led to a lot of dysfunction, and that rippled into things like the Micah fallout and whatnot. And they have acted like adults this offseason. They have acted like a franchise that cares about winning, like a franchise that has more priorities than just their latest Netflix documentary coming out. And I don't know what the catalyst was for that. Maybe it was just boredom with acting the way that they were. And I think, Caleb Downs is kind of the headliner of the offseason for obvious reasons, but the Cowboys also signed Jalen Thompson in free agency. And the Cowboys did not pull off the Max Crosby trade, but they were in the mix for him, which is, again, why people were upset about the Myles Garrett thing. They also did trade for Rashawn Gary. They gave full and total autonomy to Christian Parker, their 34-year-old defensive coordinator, and to their head coach, and Brian Schottenheimer. And for me, I know how sad this sounds, that's enough. Right? Like, they could flame out this year, but the fact that they let someone else be in charge and run the operation, that is the most significant development and change relative to this franchise from what we've seen. So I feel like they have certainly improved, and I feel like Philadelphia has only gotten worse. And the Cowboys overcame a 21-0 deficit against the Eagles last year. So I fully trust, I guess is my long way of saying, the Eagles to continue to internally combust, and the Cowboys to at least be adult enough to survive along the way and probably win the NFC East and lose in the dumbest way possible in the divisional round yet again.
He is the editor-in-chief, blogging the boys, SB Nation. Always great with his time and his insight, and we'll be watching as a fan, as we will be, the NBA Finals. RJ, always appreciate the time. I wish good luck to your Spurs, but I want you to be happy, like if it does end up going your way. RJ, thanks for the time today, bud.
Hey, you know what? I'll text you guys off air. We should do, I don't know what the New York burger is, but if Spurs win, maybe you guys hook it up with a Whataburger gift card. If the Knicks win, I hook it up. I don't know if it's Five Guys or whatever. Like, there should be some skin in the game with my favorite New Yorkers.
All right. You know what? Let's talk about that off the air. I'm always up for the play there, RJ. Like more often than not, it's like we're betting like wings or something like that up here, but representing New York City, I'd have to think that through what we would send to you. But then again, you might be sending it to us. So.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But, like, it would be a gift card to a local cuisine for me and for you. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be burgers. Maybe those weird, blanket-sized slices of pizza you guys are obsessed with or hot dogs, whatever. I don't know. You guys are sauerkraut and blue cheese people. You guys do stuff weird up there. That's why I hope the Spurs just sweep this thing and don't make it complicated.
All right, RJ, it was really great talking to you. We'll do this again soon, buddy.
Y'all have a great rest of your week.
All right, thanks, RJ. RJ Ochoa. Final thought coming next. All right, we'll put some thought. Anybody got suggestions? All right, because if it was just the Rochester thing, I'd just rattle them off. But if I'm kind of representing downstate, I'm not sure what we should put in there. 585-866-4326. We're on at WGR Rochester. We'll wrap it up next. Big guest coming up also later in the week. We'll tell you about that.
Up with no chaser. You're in the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR, Rochester.
All right, this is what I came up with. Actually, I didn't come up with it. Tim came up with it. I just
you can take it.
I was ready to usurp your idea there. Texas barbecue is the best. Oh, well, hey, we've got great barbecue up here. So if we can tie in a sponsor, I'll have to talk to the guys over at Good Smoke. Can we send RJ barbecue? But the way I look at it is, Tim, send us up some food. Come on, Knicks. Let's go.
Yeah, Nixon 4, right?
Nixon 4. Nixon 3.
There it is.
Nixon 3. Tomorrow on the show. Well, I'll tell you who the big guest is. That's Thursday. But first, tomorrow, Matt Perino. Moving it from Tuesday because you know what? Matt Perino's out at covering the Bills right now at OTAs. Matt Perino will be joining us, Syracuse Post-Standard, the Shout podcast. Also on the show tomorrow, it's a Wednesday here in the Sports Bar, PJ Glasser as on the day of the NBA Finals. What a great time to have PJ on. We'll be talking to PJ. Thursday, former New York Knick and one of, if not the greatest Section 5 basketball players of all time, the great John Wallace will join us on the show.
Awesome.
Yes, because John Wallace will give his perspective as to Game 1, what needs to kind of happen. Remember, he was on that last Knicks team back in 1999 that lost to the Spurs. And RJ Ochoa just doing the parallels, like, oh, yeah, it was the Spurs back then, and when the Spurs won against the Cavs, Mike Brown was the head coach, and Brunson won in San Antonio, so there's all these connections. We love RJ Ochoa. He joined us earlier this hour. Spencer German talking about the Browns and Myles Garrett and where do they go. He says it's kind of a gap year. Listen back to that wherever you get your fine audio. Dan DeLorean has everything in bite-sized form for you to consume. Or if you want to listen to the show 1 to 3, that's when we're around 1 to 3 Eastern time. Just download the Odyssey app and listen back in the Rewind feature. For Dan Drummy, for Tim Schneider, my name is Gene Battaglia. Thank you for listening here on 95.7 FM and AM 950. Show up in the Bulldog coming your way next year on Rochester Sports Leader.
You're in the